Hello, everyone, and welcome to Best for Women Live, the podcast. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm getting my earphones set up. How is it that the moment you touch your earphones, they explode into this tangle? So here we go. One moment. Hopefully you can hear me clearly now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Best for Women Live. I am so glad that you're here. Joining me today is my good friend, Trina Turl. I had the pleasure of getting to know her more in depth last year during the Fembot Business Building Mastermind, and she is just such a powerhouse, a commercial photographer, incredibly creative, and she's coming here today to talk about how to use pro photography to increase your success as a business. So we've got Trina coming in here. We're going to add her in as a guest. Hello, my friend. Fingers crossed. All things in the internet work well. And here she is. Amazing.
Hi, Rock. So nice to see you.
It is so nice to see you too. I know we haven't had a chance much to connect over the summer.
No.
But I've been following all of your fabulous stories all the way along and the great places that you've been with your family.
Thank you. Yeah, I haven't been online too much, but it's so nice to be reconnected with you and with everyone else too. So I'm excited for this. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolute pleasure. So glad to have you here today. So, Trina, I wanted to start if you could just take a moment to introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Trina Turl. I've been a photographer for over 20 years now. I've worked in like both the commercial space as well as sort of the more consumer space. So I kind of am a jack of or Jill of all trades. I specialize mostly in work for businesses. So that's what we would call commercial photography, business images that earn money for your business, basically. So I do a lot of product shoots, interior shoots, and also personal branding shoots as well, and some food shoots. And that's my happy place. I love, using photography to help women-owned businesses specifically to really launch their success into the sort of next level, basically.
Amazing. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because we've talked in the past about on this show about the idea of more personal branding,
Mm-hmm.
and we've had a couple of guests come on to talk to us about what personal branding looks like and some of the options. And what you do is uniquely different from that. And so I'm really excited because when I think about the breadth, I've had the pleasure, right, of seeing your work. But I've also had the opportunity to attend a workshop with you about how you can use photography in so many different ways. So I kind of want to jump in.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit more about this idea of commercial photography and what makes it different from personal branding. Maybe we can start there.
Sure. So commercial photography, like I said, it's any images that you're using to sell your business and make money with them. So it's different from like consumer photography, which is like family pictures and weddings, where you're like looking for nice pictures of yourself. And that's kind of it on a certain level, right? Like you want to get sort of some of the emotions of the day and how your family works together. But with commercial photography, it's all about the product, whether the product is you, your service, or like a physical thing that you're selling. You want to have someone who's working with you, who can bring sort of all the pieces of your brand together and what makes you and your product great and showcase that visually through images. And it's kind of a specialized thing to be able to see all of that and then bring it out in still images, especially just like to really reinforce your messages. And that's sort of the big difference between commercial and consumer photography. And it's sort of a space where I really shine because I'm a small business owner too. I work mostly with small businesses, and I bring sort of like that high level commercial work into every shoot, all that knowledge I have from working with bigger brands. And I apply what I can do for the big brands to small business. And I think that's a really powerful combination. And it really helps people's marketing, really show up online and showcase exactly like what is unique, what is fantastic about what all these small businesses are doing for their clients.
Okay, I love that. And I want to unpack that a little bit because there's a lot there. And I think one of the things that I think is so important as, we talk about what this looks like and what makes commercial photography unique is the fact that you talked about still images.
Yes.
So those images are used in multiple different ways. We immediately think of website, right? I'm going to think of an Instagram post,
yes,
or a story. But there's other ways that your clients use those images to sell their to support their business, right, in sales. So can you give us some practical examples or tangible examples of where your photography gets used?
So I have one client, her name is Shane Fox Hardware, and she actually is a superstar at using her images. We don't just shoot her products on plain white backgrounds. There's a lot of mood and color and like feel for her business comes out in those pictures. And she is using her high-end photography to get into various like international and national publications and magazines. And also she had it up on the main stage at the International Design Show one year when she was a presenter. So if you have the high level photography and really great images for your business, you can use them to get other people to sell you. So she has, House and Home magazine has her images in it. And so their massive, like across Canada audience is seeing her work and they're showcasing her for her. And so if you have the right images, it's easier to get featured in other magazines, or she's even had her pictures on the background for when she was on, I think it was Breakfast Television or the Marilyn Dennis Show. So having the right images and images that are polished and professional opens a lot of doors for you, more so than if you were to just, use what you take on your phone. There's a lot more opportunities to use your images in some really big spaces. Yeah.
So what I'm also imagining, okay, so I'm picturing her on stage. She's got like massive, image behind her.
Yes.
And so part of that work for you then is the level of detail that has to go into that, because this is not an Instagram square that you're viewing on your phone. This is, in a high resolution, high gloss publication. This is on a big screen behind her. So the quality of the images and the level of detail that has to be in that image so that it's sharp and crisp at every size.
Yeah. So I use a high-end professional camera that has, tons of megapixels, and it also comes down to the lighting. So we are lighting to bring out the best texture and the right color for her product, and making an image that is arresting, that you want to look at more, so that when you are like it's on a big screen or a small screen, it's something that people are looking at and not bored with. There's like layers to them, and like subtle messages about sort of, her specifically. There's what inspired her to make that product is also subtly featured in the images, and just like the feel for her brand as a whole comes out in them. And I think that's a really powerful way to express your brand. We absorb so much information through our eyes, and we absorb it really quickly. And so if you've got the right images, they're sending your viewers the right message, and you don't even need words for it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So, and it's true. While we were talking, I realized that I was pretty dark and I turned on my light. I totally had forgotten to do that. We started to, suddenly my face pops up and I'm overlit from the under up, but whatever. But you're probably cringing in the background and I'm just going to cope.
No, you're not a silhouette. It's great.
Okay, perfect. But one of the things that I think is really valuable is, you talked about different modes of where to use pictures. We're going to dig into that a little more because I know you've got more creative ideas on that. But also, I'm seeing in the comments that there's a variety of images. So we've got, one of the people wrote, I love my variety of images from Trina. I'm always ready whenever someone needs an image from my business. And so you've talked about product, right? So physical hardware. So I'm thinking of like doorknobs and hooks and all this amazing stuff. I've seen her photos from you, and I love that you showcase her photos and celebrate her wins, which is just awesome.
I do that for all of my clients.
It's so fabulous. And it's so important, right? Because this is part of showcasing your work, but also showcasing their success with that work and in their own efforts as well, which I love. So tell us about some other examples. So you talked about food as one of them and you as a brand. Pick those two apart. Tell me a little bit more about what that means.
So you as a brand, it's not immediately obvious from looking at my Instagram page that I do personal branding shoots, but I do. And you as a brand is kind of a tough one for people because it's a lot easier, I find, to sell something that's not you. And like, there's a lot of nerves attached to selling yourself as you. But there's also like some really great benefits because there's only one you out there, right? And so what we want to do with personal branding is to bring that unique aspect of yourself to it and then work that in like sort of within what you have established for your brand mood and your colors and your logo and all of that stuff. Photography is kind of like the piece of the puzzle that brings everything together. And so part of what I talk about with all of my personal branding clients, we talk about like what your message is, what are your content buckets, how can we create, images that work for all of that, that are easy for you to use. So as a commercial photographer, I'm used to working with layouts. And so I use that for small businesses because I understand how text and your logo sort of interact with the images, and I know to leave space for it, so it's easier for you to create your content and your brochures and things because we have this all, it's part of the planning process. It's like baked into what we're going to create. I always ask, what's your end use for the images? Like, what's your goals for these? Where do you want to go with them? And how can we create, images that work for all of that so that you're getting as much use out of them as you can and have them reflect your business strongly so that, everything's working together and you're getting a lot of value out of your images.
Okay, what I love about that is there's two different things, right? Because we talk about the headshot, right? And most people, when they think of personal branding, they think of a headshot. And sure enough, I asked you as part of our preparation for this call, can you send me a headshot? And you're like, yeah, of course. Got a whole slew, right? Although I also happen to know you well enough to know that it's not your most comfortable thing. It's being on the other side of the camera is way more comfortable.
Yes, which is,
normal. Oh, are you there? You suddenly lost your sound, Trina.
Am I back
there
now?
You are. Yep, you're
there
back.
Okay.
Yep, there we go.
Most of the people I work with don't like having their picture taken also. And I actually find it unnerving working with people who do like having their picture taken. Because I'm like, what's wrong with you? This is supposed to be like, everyone finds it a bit intimidating. So I understand where people are coming from when they say, I don't like having my picture taken. It's no fun. It's stressful. It's awkward. And I'm like, I get it. I'm here to make you feel good. You're going to feel great. You are going to have fun. I'll tell you a lot of bad jokes. It's all about, for me, like, how can we bring your personality out in the pictures, right? It's not, it's more than just stiff headshots. It's about, having who you are come to life and sparkle in the images. And that's a bit of an exploration and a bit of a journey and preparation to get that right. But when it's right, it's like really fantastic. And I think that it allows your audience to connect with you so much better than, just with a headshot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm seeing Sarah from Empowered Results Mediation. She's written, I've done many photo shoots with Trina. And I
She
love that
has.
she has, but I think she makes such an interesting point. I love the giant image library she's created for me. I have such a
Yes.
great time every shot, and it shows how relaxed I am in my photos. And it's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's really important is something that you said. We think of the headshot where we're centered, and it's great, it's helpful.
Yeah.
But there's so many more ways to use an image of you in a photograph. And so you shoving your head off to the side or trying to like float it over top something is it right? It's
Yeah.
awkward. And that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about creating images with you in a setting, you in an image, imagining how it's going to get used. What is that Instagram post going to look like? And
Yes.
then let's create it together. Is
Yeah.
this sort of, am I understanding correctly?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then even like for websites, there's different shapes of boxes your pictures go in. So like the banner of a website is a long horizontal rectangle. How do we create an image that's going to look amazing in that shape, right, of that box? Or how do we create an image that works for multiple different crops? Sarah's, yeah, she's right. An image library makes creating content marketing easy because you have everything you need right there, ready to go. And Sarah's been doing shoots for a long time, so she actually has a lot of depth to her image library. And so she's got, if anyone asks her for a picture of herself, she can match the picture she's sending to either what her message was when working with that person, or sort of what they need from her, like if it's a more corporate client or someone who's a small business. She has the shots to send to them that matches all of that, which is really cool.
That is really cool. I think this is
Yeah.
one of the tips that you said at the very beginning, bringing a little bit more of the corporate availability and accessibility over into the small business world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's practically what that can look like.
Having a design background as well as the photography, I understand how all these different shapes of images and moods and how you're going to use how it all works together and comes together in an image. So it's fun. I love talking about like different things you can do, and I like talking Canva and like how you put your layouts together. I offer like some coaching for my clients with that too, because I understand that, it might be easy for me because I work with images all the time, but not everyone has a visual sense. And so, I help out with that side of things as well, so that not only are you using your professional images, but the layouts that they're going into, you have the opportunity to make them look good as well, so that it's polished and beautiful from beginning to end, right?
Oh, absolutely. And what's really cool about that is I've seen you do, I think it's called a flat layout.
Yes.
And so this idea of creating an image that you can then use in other images, mm-hmm. and having it be, and I've watched you do a demo, and it's really cool because in one small tweak, it's a completely different image.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what a flat layout means?
Yeah. So a flat lay is basically, it's just a shot from straight above. That's the angle. And what's fun about that angle is that you can be very playful with how you're composing things. So like you can just like, yeah, little movements. I'm all about those because that's how we refine the composition, bring everything like into as close to perfection as we can get as human beings. And then you can experiment with some different compositions using like zigzags, and how are you going to lead your viewer's eye around that image. It's fun. You can play with color. It can be very graphic with like color blocks. It's just, it's fun. I really like them.
I know. I watched you light up doing this demo for us last year.
Yeah. And the nice thing about those is they can be really useful because you can, like Canva and there's other programs, they can isolate things from the background really easily. So you can take what's in that flat lay, change what's behind it, use it like dancing around your head if you want to, like stick it in other shots. And then you can also, make sure you have space for your copy in that image and your logo. And then that way you've got, something that you can customize really easily to many uses in your business.
Oh, I love that. And I love the breadth of what you actually do. So we've talked about you as a person, we've talked about product, right? And I've seen some of because you sell artwork as well.
I do.
And I've seen some of it, and it's really cool because you do a lot with, I'm going to call it texture, literally, with food.
Yes. I like to take food and treat it like it's a product and not something you would eat. And so when I do that, it is all about the texture, and like some of the compositions get a little weird, but it's all about an exploration of how do these textures and shapes work together to make an image that is compelling and beautiful that you want to keep looking at. And so I like to look for food I'm not familiar with, combine it with food I am familiar with. It's just, I guess it's also, as another way I play with things is just to take a look at those textures and buy random things and pull them together to make an image is like what I do for playtime.
Oh, I love hearing that what you do professionally is also what you do for play.
Yeah, like I love exploring sort of the still life like genre of creating images, and how can we add a sense of movement and texture to that using food. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And for those of you watching, I highly recommend following Trina's stories because you post these amazing pictures almost every day of something, whether it's stones in water or shadows in your walk, the development of the trees, mushrooms.
Yes.
Like
mushrooms.
all these mushrooms, all these really interesting textures. And so it is a joy. It's like an art gallery every day. I look forward to your stories.
Thank you. And it's a great example of what you can do with the powerful camera in your pocket called your cell phone. So I'm always taking pictures.
I know, and it's so fun. Now you have actually, so in addition to coaching on how to use the images, obviously taking the images and planning for that. And I want to touch a little bit more, so we're going to pin that and come back to it.
Okay.
You also have artwork that you sell. And I'm not sure if you're still doing it, but for a while you were selling unique flat lays for people so that you're not using a Canva template and looking like every other. You're scrolling. You're like, oh yeah, this is, and it's interesting because I've met businesses where I know in an instant who they are.
Yes.
And I've had other ones where I'm like, oh, I actually used that template last week.
Yeah. So I have a stock photography site that I create like flat lays for. I'm going to be starting to, I'm calling it the gift shop. So I'll be making some fun flat lay gifts. So you've got a little story, a little video happening in there. And I started that because, I noticed people using the same stock images, and like the free stuff that's widely available, it is very bland and it's not really tied to anyone's business. So you look like everyone else who's using it. And if you can't afford custom photography, then what's your next best option is to try to find stock images that you might have to pay a bit of money for, but then they're like yours to use for a while, and you can reuse your images just by like cropping them differently or zooming in. But this is a way for people to use Clio and Fox stock is what it's called. Use that to use images that are not being used by everyone else. You stand out. We're expanding the collection. So hopefully everyone has their brand colors in there somewhere, like at some point. But it's kind of like it bridges the gap between having nothing and looking like everybody else and sort of the more expensive custom work. It sort of sits in the middle there, waiting for people to, realize that, there's only a certain number of these images available for sale. And then once it's gone, and no one else can use it. So it's sort of a middle ground That's a fun place to hang out.
I love that. And I'm going to describe an image, and I know everyone listening is going to recognize it right away. It's a young person's hands filled with soil with a little sprout in the top of it. And honestly, I see it everywhere, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
And this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about really interesting layouts that you can use. You can superimpose yourself. You can superimpose text.
Yes.
And so I want to pick up on something you said, because you said you can reuse different images by cropping and zooming. So tell me a little bit about that, because this sort of feeds into the how do you make the most out of your pro photography?
Yeah. So sometimes we have an image and we love it, and we want to use it more often. There's sort of two sides to this. I kind of think of, if you reuse an image for a specific kind of post, then people see that and they know what they're going to get in that caption, right? So let's say you have a quote that you like to post a quote every week. Use the same image, and people know that they're going to get something kind of profound, and that makes them think. They're going to want to stop because they've recognized what this post is and read your caption. But sometimes we want to take that image and use it in other ways because we've got a different message we want to share with our viewers. So you can change how you crop it, like use a different part of the image. All my photography is shot with a 4:6 ratio, so it's sort of a long rectangle. You can get 2 squares out of that, so that's 2 images out of 1. And then by shifting it around, you can use different parts of it. So if you shift that square crop, or Instagram's now a 4:5 vertical shape. So again, though, you can probably get at least 2 images out of 1 using that. So there's cropping different parts of the image out to use. And then you can also, depending on how high the resolution on your image is, you can zoom in and use a different part of it as well. And that way get more mileage out of your pictures.
I love that.
Yeah.
Rose Mills says, love the idea of repurposing images. And you make a really good point, because there is also some value in not making change, just having something that people come to know. So for example, for me, my podcast cover will always look the same, right? And then it's the new podcast release. If I changed it every week, then you may not know that it's related to a podcast, because I run programs as well. And then I'm going to be pulling out some amazing quotes and recommendations from today. And similarly, that has its own format, and I use the same format every time. And part of that is ease of use for me. But it's also, again, now you know that this is the recap of the podcast. And so every week you can expect those 2 posts to look the same. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, look, consistency builds trust. And so if people know that's what they're getting, and then that's what you give them, then they trust you more. And social media doesn't have to be hard. And your professional photos should be a step towards making it easier, right? You have this image bank to use, and you've planned ahead sort of how you want to use them. So you have images that fit your message and what you want to say in your marketing. And then it just all flows from there, right?
And I'll give you a great example. Even for me, in something like, okay, send me a copy of your headshot. I'm over time getting more specific about what that means, because I've had people send a headshot and I can't figure out how to use it, because it needs to fit, right? Because you talked about what are the different shapes. I need one of them to fit in a circle.
Right.
And then I need one of them to sort of fit in a square sort of triangle. and oftentimes what happens is like, it cuts right through there, and I'm like, oh no, this isn't going to work. So now I'm trying to see, can I shrink it down, but it's not big enough to shrink down. And so now I've got to crop it and figure out it is awkward. You don't really realize until you start using it how challenging it can be when people don't have enough variety or space around it. So I can zoom in on your face for the oval, but I need you to have space around for me to do the second graphic of the square. And so, is this sort of an example for you of what a library or bank, like, am I sort of describing what it would look like on the other side?
For an image library or an image bank, you want to have images falling into sort of your marketing message buckets, sort of like the pillars of your marketing. Figure out what those are and have your images. I would even organize them like that. So you're like, oh, I need a picture for like about a speaking engagement that's coming up. Then I can go in and find that. So yeah, an image bank is building up of all these layers of images for what you need for your marketing. They're multi-purpose. If a professional has created them and they understand different shapes and things, you may have the same, like a very similar image with like different like levels of zoomed in and framing in order to accommodate, yeah, other shapes that other people might use that you might not have anticipated. And it just like gives you so much more flexibility with what you can provide. And if you make it easier for other people to market your business for you, they're way more likely to do it, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so funny because we're talking about how do you make it easy, and Rose Mills says, music to my ears, social media doesn't have to be hard, and this is true.
Mm-hmm.
But can I ask, you're talking about, different examples. So I'm thinking of one of our past speakers. It's her in a chair with big white background, and it was really easy to zoom and reposition her. We had Sophia Ruffalo, who you and I both know from
Mm-hmm.
Fembot, and
She's lovely.
she is lovely, and she instinctively sent me two. So I had one of her centered as an actual headshot, and then I had one of her sort of arms off to the side with a banner with her messaging beside her.
Yeah.
And so I was able to sort of use that well because now I've got space on either side her to move it. And so when you're creating these, tell me some examples, because speaking might be one, but maybe someone didn't capture me. Maybe they caught you like mid-mouth speaking, right? And it's not a good look that you can use, but you don't have photos of you speaking on stage. So are there ways that you can recreate scenes or recreate scenarios? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so all of my personal branding clients, we talk about what props they need to bring. So if you are someone who does a lot of public speaking, bring your microphone, right? Bring a microphone so that we can use that as a prop. I had one client, she does a lot of online podcasts and workshops. So we have her with her microphone, with her computer. It's not her office, it's my studio that we set up to look like an office. But yeah, we can totally fake stuff like that as well. Because the thing is, taking pictures of people speaking is tricky because you make a lot of really weird faces that you don't even know you're making.
It's so true.
Yeah. So, like I have a lot of practice with that. The key is to take a lot of frames and see which ones turn out. And then you kind of, it's also a matter of time. So if I'm seeing someone speaking, I'll get better shots toward the end of their speak, like their, I don't know, their lecture, than I will at the beginning, because I will have learned sort of to anticipate when they are going to have a good face. Okay. It's the same thing with any shoot. The best images tend to come towards the end when people are comfortable. They kind of get the process. And then that way, you're more relaxed, your personality is coming out. So I always say this, good photography takes time, whether it's, photographing people, give yourself time to relax into the shoot. If you're photographing, high-end images for a product, it takes time to set the light up, get the composition right. It takes time to make great product, and it's the same with photography as it is with like so many other things.
Okay, we have a fabulous question from Rose Mills. So,
Hi, Rose.
and she raises, I think, a really important point, because we're talking about two different things. We've been talking about product, and we're talking about, backgrounds for quotes or messages. Mm-hmm. And then what she's asking is, what is the best way to use stock photos for a service-based business? So again, you, right?
Yes.
As a person. And she said, I feel like stock photos are fantastic for product-based businesses. Mm-hmm. As someone who embraced stock photos 3 to 4 years ago when Instagram was all about that. So how can that work now for a service-based business?
So for a service-based business, I think of the stock photos like the flat lays as a way to bring across, strengthen that messaging with your brand colors. And sort of you can put in the tools of what you use for your business in that picture as well. And things that are specific to you. Like if you have a really cool phone case, let's get that in. A mug that you like to drink out of all the time. Like how can we take you as a person and what you do and turn it into a flat lay? Let's look at what you use in your business and sort of what brings your personality across. Are you the kind of person who likes to use black notebooks, or do you like really colorful yellow notebooks? Let's take what is things that are about you and that you surround yourself with in those objects and make a like on brand image that uses them. It's unique to who you are. And then it can appear like if you have a sales page, you can have that in there, and it's still bringing your personality and your service into the image without it actually having to be a picture of your face. So,
okay. So we're talking about props, because you talked about props earlier. So these are examples of props, and this is an example of a photograph of maybe the office. So it could be the computer and the microphone, but you're not now in the photo. It's more of a zoom in or a close up of that.
Yeah, and there's something like that is really easy to like run graphics across because you don't have to worry about going across your face. But it's got some of your personality. It's got your brand colors in there, and no one else is going to have a picture that looks exactly like that. It's you. It's yours. You're reflected in it.
Oh, I love this. What a great wrap up, because this goes back to the very beginning of what do you plan on using these images for? And this is, I feel like we've come full circle. This is an example of the type of conversation you want to have with a client before the shoot.
Yeah. Knowing what you're going to do with your pictures can feel a little overwhelming. It doesn't have to be specific, but if you have a good idea of what you want to capture, you're going to end up with all the images you need. Planning is so key to getting your best value out of a photo shoot.
Oh, that's going to be in a quote. That is fabulous. So is there any other advice? Planning is the best way to get the value out of a photo shoot. Is there any other advice that you want to leave our client with? Because we have flown through our conversation today. It's been so easy and joyful. And thank you, Trina.
Oh, you're welcome. You get what you pay for with photography, as well as like everything else in the world. A more experienced photographer who's able to do the planning and help you with producing a shoot and creating these like high-end images that you need is going to cost more. So, if you can't afford them for a customized shoot, keep an eye out for the photographer of your choice. A lot of us run mini sessions, which are short sessions, not quite as customized as a private session would be, but it's a more accessible way to get into getting those professional images you need to sort of build the professionalism for yourself. You're going to look a lot more, established of a business if you have some professional photographs that you are using. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming to join me today.
Thank you, Brooke.
Absolute pleasure. So I'm going to post all of your contact information, both for you and also for it's Clio and Fox.
Clio and Fox stock on Instagram. Yeah, that's right. ClioandFox.com on the internets.
Perfect. So we'll get all of that in there as well. Trina, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Brooke. It was fun.
This was really fun.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for the great questions and comments. This has been loads of fun. And as always, if you have any questions or any topic ideas, come find us at bestforwomen.ca. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.